Well, good morning to all of you, and certainly welcome to all of you. My name is John Padova. I'm a senior judge here in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. This is an opportunity that comes to our judges, which is probably at the top of the list. It's really a very special privilege for me to preside over this ceremony. And when we think about it, this ceremony will result in the making of this country's newest citizens. We have many responsibilities as a judge, but one of the most gratifying is the opportunity to preside over naturalization ceremonies. And today, we will be naturalizing approximately 48 applicants from 27, yes, 27 different countries. I am going to make some preliminary remarks, but the heart of the program will be coming when we hear from our distinguished guest speakers. I just want to recognize that many of you have waited a long time for this moment. Some of you have undergone great effort, perhaps great risk, and in some cases, great and real danger to reach this point. But I know that this is the realization of your goal. This has been the dream of your life, to become naturalized and to become a United States citizen. And I commend you on going through what you have gone through to reach this stage. I, like many, maybe most Americans, became a citizen by birth and not by making a conscious choice as you have. And I recognize that sometimes things that are simply bestowed upon us can be taken for granted. But each of you are becoming citizens by conscious choice, which in some ways really means that you know more than I the full meaning of being a citizen of the United States of America. And so many things have converged to make this day, your naturalization day, so very special to all of us. We find ourselves in this beautiful National Constitution Center, really a living monument to our nation's foundational past. And of course, it is located in the most historic setting in all of the United States. This is a very special day, too, here in the United States. On September 17, 1787, about 237 years ago today, just 2 blocks from where we now sit, the United States Constitution, the law of this land, was signed by 39 brave delegates who really changed the course of history. Today, that document, which contains 7 articles and 27 amendments, serves as a beacon for life in America. That momentous event in which a new form of government was born truly and honestly constituted a great experiment. And let me tell you what I mean by that. The prevailing question in those days, when they debated the Constitution, was could the 13 states, and there were only 13 states at that time, filled with inhabitants from different countries and with different cultures, could they blend their views, and could they respect each other's cultural differences? Now that happened certainly with respect to the making of the Constitution, because they did meet that challenge. Over the past 237 years, people like you have come and will continue to come here from many different lands with many different cultures. So that you here in this room, as our new citizens, really prompts me to recognize that the experiment continues. We're going to be merging many different cultures with our new citizens. So it's kind of like the same experiment, in a sense, that the founders of our Constitution faced. For generations, people have traveled to this country to make it their home. They came, as you have come, both to share in all of the opportunities that the United States of America presents, to share in our country's ideas, and certainly to contribute to our country's ideas, and to harvest its opportunities, and certainly to increase those opportunities. So you're going to become a citizen, and our speakers are going to address what that means. You become a part of the group. You'll become an American. We know that this country has been built on the dreams and the accomplishments of an immigrant population, because that's what we are here. We're an immigrant population. And very shortly, you will renounce allegiance to any foreign sovereignty, and you will dedicate your entire allegiance to the United States of America. Just a few more comments. And I want to focus us for a few minutes on today, Constitution Day. What also makes this day special for all of us is that today is both Constitution Day, and it's also Citizenship Day. September 17th is a day that has been set aside each year by the Congress of the United States to honor and to celebrate the adoption of the United States Constitution and those who have become U.S. citizens. Today you're going to become part of that celebration. Our Constitution today, of course, this special day, really focuses us on its purpose. It binds us, it empowers us, and it protects us all as Americans, a group which will now include you as our new citizens. So today is a day of celebration. Today's a day that we have the opportunity to affirm our loyalty to the United States and dedicate ourselves to the ideals of equality and justice. Now, what will add immeasurably to this special day will be welcoming remarks from the President and the Chief Operating Officer of the National Constitution Center, and you'll meet him very shortly, Jeffrey Rosen. And Mr. Rosen will address you. We have distinguished guest speakers today. We have MSNBC's host, and also National Constitution Center Trustee Ali Velshi, who you will meet very shortly. We have an officer of civil rights and civil liberties, Shova Saiva Prasad Wadia, who will also address you. And in addition, Jennifer Coatsworth, Chancellor of the Philadelphia Bar, will deliver remarks on behalf of the Bar Association. But finally, we will cherish the words that will be shared with you and with us by one of our newest citizens, one of your own, Fanuel N. Gotti, formerly of Ghana. And we look forward to hearing those remarks. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move to the heart of the matter, and that's to your naturalization. And I will now recognize Teneri Rivera, an officer from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. Officer Rivera will make appropriate motions in connection with your naturalization and with respect to change of names. And the clerk of the United States District Court, George Wilesaw, is with us, and he will then administer the oath of allegiance.
Good morning, Your Honor. May I address the Assembly?
You may.
Candidates, I will now call the names of your country of nationality. When I call your country's name, please stand and remain standing until all of the countries have been called. Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Belarus, Cambodia, Canada, China, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Eritrea, Ghana, Haiti, Honduras, India, Iraq, Jordan, Mexico, Moldova, Pakistan, Philippines, Sierra Leone, South Korea, Spain, Turkey, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, and Vietnam. On behalf of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, I have the great pleasure to present to the court 48 applicants representing 27 countries for naturalization. These applicants have been found fully qualified for citizenships in all respects. Each has been found to be a person of good moral character, attached to the principles of the Constitution, and well disposed to the good order and happiness of the United States. Therefore, I respectfully ask that the oath of allegiance be administered and all name change petitions be granted.
Your motion is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank
And we
you.
now recognize the clerk of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, George Wilesaw, who will administer the oath.
With Your Honor's permission, may I address the assembly?
You may proceed.
Those petitioning for citizenship, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen. That I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by law. That I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by law. That I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law. And that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, so help me God. Thank you. Please be seated.
There's no turning back, you know, our newest citizens. Our next speaker, Jeffrey Rosen, is a renowned professor of law. He's a renowned author. He's recognized as one of the leading experts with respect to our Constitution and constitutional law. And what's really pertinent today is that he's the president and the chief executive officer of the National Constitution Center, which has grown tremendously and has been just given a wonderful reputation throughout the world as a result of Jeffrey Rosen's efforts and abilities here on behalf of the center. So we recognize Mr. Rosen, and he will give welcoming remarks and introduce our guest speakers. Jeff.
Good morning, fellow citizens. I can't express what an honor and a joy it is to stand before you today. Watching each of you, 48 people from 27 countries, stand up one by one and take the oath of citizenship is the highlight of the year for me and for all of us at the Constitution Center. It's so beautiful to see your faces as you renounce allegiance to foreign princes and potentates and swear allegiance to the Constitution and laws of the United States. It's so meaningful that you've sworn allegiance not to a person, but to an idea, a set of ideas embodied in the Constitution and laws, and that's what unites us as Americans. What are those ideals that you've just sworn allegiance to? Well, you know them better than many natural-born citizens, because you've just studied for the citizenship test, you've learned about American history, and you've chosen to embrace these ideals through study and choice, not through birth. But let's just remember what some of those ideals are. First, the ideals of the Declaration of Independence: liberty, equality, and democracy. And then the ideals of the Constitution: separation of powers, federalism, and the Bill of Rights. What does that mean in practice? What's in the Bill of Rights? Well, the First Amendment is in the Bill of Rights. There was just a survey that the Annenberg Foundation released this week that suggested that about 75% of Americans knew that the First Amendment protects freedom of speech, but only 39% knew that it also protects religious liberty, and then even lower percentages knew about the other freedoms protected by the First Amendment, which include the right of press and petition and assembly. So let's just take a moment to remind ourselves about that right of religious liberty, which was so central to the First Amendment and to the reason that many of us are here. My ancestors, my grandmother, came to the US fleeing murderous pogroms, anti-Semitic pogroms in Ukraine at the hands of imperial authorities. And they came to America in search of liberty and opportunity. And that was why the original Puritans came to America as well. These are dissenters from the religious establishment of England, and the king is murdering people because of their religious beliefs and their desire to read the scripture by themselves and make up their own minds. And that's why John Winthrop came to the US and envisioned a city on a hill and called on America to be an example for the world of freedom. And that's why Thomas Jefferson and James Madison chose the words of the First Amendment. So when you leave, you've got to go out and see the First Amendment tablet. It's the words of the First Amendment, 70 feet high, 50 tons of marble. So gaze at those words and then look out at Independence Hall to your right, which is the room where it happened, the place where the Declaration and the Constitution were drafted. So what does it say? Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or in prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That comes from Thomas Jefferson's Virginia Bill of Religious Freedom. And he's explaining why freedom of religion and speech and thought are all part of a broader freedom of conscience that comes from God or nature and not from government. And Jefferson says the opinions of men and women, being dependent on evidence contemplated by their own minds, cannot be controlled by other men. In other words, I can't give to you or to the government the power to control my thoughts because I can't entirely control them myself. They're the product of my reason. And I can't surrender to some king or foreign potentate or prince the power to control my reason because it's inherent in who I am as a human being. Isn't that an incredible, shining expression of faith in the individual and the faith in individual reason? And that's why the Constitution completely prohibits any attempts by the government to control our thoughts or expression because they're so rooted in our reason. So you see now why freedom of speech and religion and conscience and petition and assembly are all part of this broader natural right that comes from God or nature and not government. And it's why many of us are here. My ancestors fled those pogroms because the imperial powers in Russia were trying to murder Jews, and that's because they didn't have separation of powers. The Russian Tsar could kill anyone he wanted because he was the law. There's no independent judiciary, and there's no separation of powers. And today, of course, many of you know, you've come from countries where the same thing is the case, and the king or the boss can kill people or put them in jail because of their beliefs, and we're seeing this around the world. And in America, the most important protection for freedom of speech and conscience isn't those beautiful words of the First Amendment, which are up on the wall. It's the fact that the president is not a king, and the president can't put people in jail because he doesn't like them, and because judges can check him, and the citizens in Congress can ultimately rule. So you're just getting a sense now of why it's so meaningful that you've just sworn allegiance to the Constitution, but also how much more all of us have to learn. And it's not enough that you just took the citizenship test. That's just the beginning of your learning about the Declaration and the Constitution. The framers thought that we all have not just a right, but a duty to learn about these liberties so that we can defend them and ensure that no government takes them away. And that's why it's so great that you're here at the Constitution Center on Constitution Day. We're launching a really exciting course today called Constitution 101. And we're doing it with Khan Academy, which is the leading online education provider in America. And with this free course, which you can now check out online, you can dig deeply into the principles of the Declaration and the Constitution. You can find the greatest constitutional scholars in America and the greatest historians telling us about the basic principles of the Declaration and the Constitution and how they played out throughout American history, and how we fell short and how we lived up to them. It's just amazing. It's so exciting. Please check it out and view the ceremony today, which none of us will ever forget being part of, just as the beginning of your constitutional learning and growing. The deeper you dig, the more new horizons are opened up, and the more you'll be excited to learn about. It's so exciting to learn about American history. It's sobering. It's not all a pretty story, but it's ultimately an uplifting story of how the Constitution is always becoming more embracive and including not just the original people, but the left-out people, not just grudgingly, but with open arms. So that's why it's so wonderful, so meaningful, such an honor to be with you on Constitution Day. If you can stick around after the ceremony, it's going to be an incredible day. Justice Neil Gorsuch is coming to talk to kids and to talk about his new book, and there'll be games and discussions and meetings with teachers who are the core of everything we do all day. So check it out, and most of all, welcome. Thank you for honoring the Constitution Center by holding your naturalization ceremony here. And it is now my great pleasure to introduce a colleague and friend and a great defender of the Constitution and a great voice for democracy in America, Ali Velshi. You've seen him on TV on his great MSNBC show. Each week, he digs deep into the principles of the Constitution, brings together people of different perspectives, and carries us back to first principles. He's written great books about democracy and the Constitution, and please join me in welcoming Ali Velshi.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Judge Padova, U.S. District Judge for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, and thank you for what you do and how Jeff has described what a strong and independent judiciary means to our democracy. Thank you, sir. Jeff, my friend and mentor as it relates to the Constitution, and of course the leader of this remarkable organization and museum that you are in now. George, thank you for administering that oath. I can never keep a dry eye when I hear that. Tanara, thank you for your role in bringing these people into our fold as Americans. Shilpa, I'm looking forward to your comments, and yours as well, Jennifer. Thank you for what you do. And Fanel, a fellow African-born, welcome to you and welcome to America. Distinguished guests, and to you, the newest citizens of our country, congratulations. I'm honored to be able to speak with you today. I'm sure your families realize how special this moment is. And I was in your place 9 years ago as a brand new American citizen. I came here from Canada, and the path I took to becoming an American citizen was long and circuitous and not especially purposeful. It took me 18 years, 9 months, and 17 days of living in the United States before I took the oath that you just took. I became an American in 3 steps. The first of those steps was the day I showed up. That's the case for every American citizen, whether you show up in the maternity ward of a hospital or you show up at the international terminal of Philadelphia Airport. My arrival was only unique in its timing, which by total coincidence was September the 13th, 2001. That was the day that I arrived to stay, crossing from Canada into the United States along the international border with a faxed copy of my visa, because on September 12th, the day I got my visa, there were no airplanes flying as a result of the attacks of 9/11. So I was on the only vehicle I could find, because there were no rental cars and no planes. I had a leftover 650cc motorcycle that I rode across the bridge at Niagara Falls, and then I ultimately rode it across the George Washington Bridge into New York City. Lower Manhattan was still in flames. The second step in my becoming a citizen was a day very much like this, in September 15th, where I took the oath. But the truth is, I had never thought much about becoming an American citizen until 2012, when I was working at CNN, and a colleague of mine, also a Canadian journalist, had taken U.S. citizenship, and we were discussing it. And I said, I don't know that it matters all that much whether I take American citizenship or not. All that'll happen is I'll have to serve on a jury. And she got quite cross with me. She said, being a citizen of this country is not something to be taken lightly. You live in this country, you benefit from its services and its infrastructure and its democracy, and if you are planning to stay here, that comes with rights and responsibilities. Being here today before you brings all of those rights and responsibilities to the front of my mind and brings me back to my own swearing in. The day of my ceremony, I went through metal detectors. We were at a court. It was a beautiful, ornate chamber in a court in New York City where the oath was going to be administered. And I looked around and I saw you, people like you, people of different cultures. I watched as everybody filtered into their seats. I started to think about their individual stories, just as I did when we walked into this room. Maybe the document that you have in your hand, the citizenship documents, are your golden ticket. Maybe someone here is a refugee from a war-torn country that you may never see again. Maybe someone here is a spouse of someone who you've been trying to join or be with or remain with. Maybe the woman who was sitting in the row in front of me spent years going through the immigration bureaucracy to be with someone they loved. And seeing how special the moment was for everybody else around me made it special for me. But special though it was, once I became a citizen, other than being able to vote, and indeed being called for jury duty, my day-to-day life was not greatly transformed. I would say that as a result of being sworn in as an American citizen, I had a greater awareness of the rights and privileges of citizenship, but I was not any more concerned by my responsibilities and obligations as a citizen. And then on a Saturday night in May of 2020, almost 5 years after having taken my oath and becoming a U.S. citizen, I got shot in the leg with a rubber bullet by an armed agent of the state during protests that I was covering in Minnesota about the killing of a man at the hands of police. That day, that was my third and final step in becoming an American citizen. That was the moment I finally became a citizen in the deepest sense of the word, because that was the moment in which I understood how invested in this country I truly needed to be. It happened on live TV. My mother was watching. She's not very pleased about that. But it happened through the haze of tear gas. So I don't actually know who shot me. But one day I will find out. And I will go to that person, and I will thank them for opening my eyes. They woke me up. They changed my entire outlook on democracy. That rubber bullet told me, you are in this fight for democracy. You're not watching it anymore. You're in it, whether you want to be or not. And that fighting spirit about being in it is what I got from my family. Over generations and across 3 continents, they suffered economic hardship, political persecution, and state-sponsored violence. And yet through it all, they never succumbed to hopelessness or despair. Through it all, they never resigned themselves to the idea that their actions were futile and that they had no agency in determining their own path in life. At every critical juncture in their lives, often in defiance of governments that oppressed and disenfranchised them, they chose to use what few resources they had to make the biggest difference they could, sometimes for the sake of their own survival, but often for the good of their community and the larger society around them. And I call these their small acts of courage. I've written about it in a recent book. And while that book is the story of my family, it's really the story of all of you. America needs your courage right here in the United States. You are now as much a citizen of this country as the rest of us are here. You have the same rights that we do, but you also have the same obligations to keep our democracy strong, to leave this place better than you found it for those who come after you. Being a citizen is one thing, but true citizenship is a muscle that weakens if you do not use it. And if that muscle weakens, there are people who will be waiting to take advantage of that weakness. And that is where these small acts of courage come in. You can start really small. Become as involved in your community and its museums, if you'd like, as you can. Its libraries, its city councils. Or you can lean into it a little bit more. Volunteer to be a poll worker, something we desperately, desperately need in this country right now. You can do that starting today to continue our country's great tradition of free and fair elections. Or you can go bigger. Go as big as you want. That's up to you. You're free to do it. You are a citizen of the United States of America. Your imagination is your only limit. And there are endless ways that your small acts of courage can keep our democracy beating. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you so much, Ali, for that inspiring speech. It's now a great pleasure to introduce Shobha Sivaprasad Wadia. She is the Officer for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. She's responsible for ensuring that the department respects the civil rights and liberties of all Americans, and she's been the Associate Dean at Penn State Law, and she's focused on issues of race, national security, and immigration. Please join me in welcoming Shobha Sivaprasad Wadia.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Congratulations.
Thank you.
As was so eloquently introduced, my name is Shobha Sivaprasad Wadia. It is a privilege to be here with you today and to share the joy of this special day. I was appointed by President Biden in 2023 to serve as the Officer for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Our office was established with the department and plays a central role in integrating civil rights and civil liberties throughout the department, investigating complaints alleging abuses of civil rights and civil liberties, overseeing the department's equal employment opportunity, diversity, and human rights programming, and engaging with communities of all faiths and diversity across the country. Being present with you today is a special moment for me personally. My parents came to the United States from India and landed in Norwich, Connecticut in 1973 after my father accepted a job as an attending physician. Eventually, my father became a U.S. citizen in a federal courthouse in southern Ohio. He's described the ceremony to me many times. There were a lot of people. I was excited. I thought it was the fulfillment of the American dream. My mother never thought she would come to the United States, but that changed when she was introduced to my father. She had a visa interview in New Delhi and came to the United States as the spouse of a green card holder. She keenly remembers all the memories you have that come with the first year of marriage, let alone being in a new country. She worked as a substitute teacher. She wore a sari every day. They bought a green Buick. We have a motorcycle and a Buick. I'm sure you all remember your first mode of transportation. You share these same memories, and they are the pieces we thread to weave the American dream. If you take a closer look at American history, naturalization was not open to everyone. For a long time, laws prohibited people of certain nationalities and those of Asian lineage in particular from naturalizing. It was not until 1965, on the heels of the Voting Rights Act and Civil Rights Act, when President Lyndon B. Johnson signed into law an amendment to the immigration statute so that people could access the American dream regardless of the country they were born in. The changes in 1965 helped families like my own. Perhaps they helped yours too. I was fortunate to grow up in America with a loving family and access to education. As a middle school student, learning about the civil rights movement and the role that lawyers and judges play had a profound effect on me and led to my own journey as an immigration attorney and teacher for the next 2 decades. And the discovery that immigration is the greatest civil rights issue of our time. As an immigration lawyer, I helped many clients achieve their American dream, many after complex and arduous migration journeys. Having listened to or represented mothers, children, scientists, cooks, refugees around the world, I am keenly aware and stand in awe of the path you have traveled to arrive at this time and the history of standing in this place. Your journey as a citizen of the United States begins now, as it did for my family. It is a profound day for you, and I am humbled to share it with you. I could not have dreamed of having the honor of a lifetime to serve as the Officer for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties for DHS. I am proud to be part of a workforce of 268,000 that serves our country every day. I would like to use my example to encourage you to dream big and to explore all the limitless opportunities that are America for you, your children, your grandchildren. What a beautiful venue and day to celebrate your journey. As the judge remarked, today marks Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, a day to really reflect on one's role and responsibility as citizens. As you start your journey as citizens, 48 citizens from 27 countries, you have the opportunity to help America realize its great potential. I ask that you devote the same energy and dedication that it took to reach this point today to make a positive contribution to our country. Register to vote and exercise this important right. Get involved in your children's school, in your local community. Serve in the armed forces. Operate a business. Run for public office. Also, think keenly about what it means to belong and what it means beyond a piece of paper and for those who yearn the same but do not have one. Your talents and commitments will uphold America's tradition of providing opportunities for generations. We are a nation unlike any other. Individuals from across the globe bound by a common belief in human freedom. We are a nation seeking justice for all. Just as you will strive to be better than yesterday, so will America. And you will be part of that story. I want to thank the presiding judge, Senior Judge John Padova of the U.S. District Court of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Thanks to George Wilesall, Clerk of the Court, who is administering the oath today, as well as Jeffrey Rosen, President and Chief Executive Officer of the National Constitution Center. On behalf of the Biden-Harris administration, my heartfelt congratulations to you and your family. Best wishes for a full and wonderful life as a citizen of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Our next speaker plays a very, very important role in the administration of justice here in Philadelphia. Jennifer Coatsworth is a successful lawyer. She is now Chancellor of the Philadelphia Bar Association. The Philadelphia Bar Association is the country's oldest association of lawyers and has constantly distinguished itself throughout the years. Jennifer, thank you for coming, and we do recognize you now.
Judge Padova, Ms. Rivera, Mr. Druding, Mr. Wilesall, Mr. Rosen, Mr. Velshi, Ms. Wadia, and Mr. Gade. New citizens, of which there are 48 of you from 27 different countries, family members, and guests. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you, especially as we celebrate Constitution Day today, and congratulate you on this beautiful and happy occasion on behalf of the approximately 10,000 members of the Philadelphia Bar Association. I am very proud and humbled to be here today, as it is a special honor to be asked to share this auspicious occasion with all of you and to represent the Bar Association as we welcome you to this country as new citizens. I have been asked to speak at this ceremony on several occasions, and each time has brought me a renewed sense of appreciation and love for my country and for my profession. I cherish the memories of each occasion, and I have no doubt today will be the same. So I am grateful to be just a small part of this ceremony today. Equal justice under law is the inscription on the United States Supreme Court. As we sit here today in the National Constitution Center, it is important to remember that this quote is one of the founding principles of our nation and its founding documents. And it is the theme that this building was erected to celebrate. Just a short distance from here, our country was formed. The Constitution was drafted just 2 blocks from where we sit. So it's particularly meaningful to hold this ceremony and to celebrate its drafting. Although it was written more than 200 years ago, it is still the most important and useful document ever written in this country. It is our Constitution which guarantees our rights, including the right to a fair trial and to equal justice under law. In these times, the principles espoused in that document seem to be under siege on a daily basis, and it is more important than ever to abide by the guiding principles that founded our country and to protect the rule of law. A free society, as guaranteed by our Constitution, is not without cost to its citizens. There are important responsibilities required of us. Therefore, I urge all of you to register to vote. It has never counted more. With efforts at gerrymandering and the close elections we have witnessed in recent history, we see that every vote truly does count. The coming election is less than 2 months, is the most important of our time. As Mr. Velshi mentioned, you can also become a poll worker. The Bar Association has taken special efforts this year to recruit poll workers. The Bar Association's website is listed on your program, and I encourage you to go visit the website and to click on the link to volunteer to become a poll worker. You can help shape the course of this country, your country, and it is your right and responsibility to do so. This is a unique aspect of our Constitution. Here, if there is a trial, you have a right to be tried by a jury of your peers. You have a right to equal justice under law. However, that only works if everyone participates. As Abraham Lincoln said, "Why should there not be a patient confidence in the ultimate justice of the people? Is there any better or equal hope in the world?" Jury duty provides you, the people, the opportunity to mete out justice to your fellow citizens. Jury duty allows you to truly experience equal justice under law. I also encourage you to contact your local government representatives, and to let them know if you disagree with a policy. This is another principle upon which this country was founded, because only when dissension is expressed can change be achieved. Also, just a few blocks away from here in Independence Hall, a few courageous men, only men at the time, began the American experiment in 1776 by expressing their disagreement with the British monarchy, declaring their independence from it, and establishing democracy where all people could be free and equal. Thus, July 4th became this country's Independence Day. Today, however, September 17th, 2024, is your Independence Day. This is the day you declare your independence from your previous citizenship and prior alliances and take on the colorful cloak of American citizenship. The wonderful thing about this is that though each of you become an American citizen, each of you also retains the personality, cultural traits, traditions, and ancestry that make you unique. You do not abandon your origins, rather you mix them into the American culture. This is what sets us apart. This distinct blend of unity and diversity is America's special ingredient. We are one, but we are also the melting pot of the rest of the world. Here, people of all races, religions, and nationalities live together in peace and harmony, which is a reflection of the best of the rest of the world. It is because of what you bring to America that we so enthusiastically welcome you today. We continue to recognize that we are strengthened by the addition of new individuals, new ideas, new cultures, and the creation of new opportunities. We must never forget this, and we must always strive to preserve it. As always, the Philadelphia Bar Association and the Philadelphia legal community as a whole is here to assist you with those opportunities. Philadelphia lawyers are proud of volunteer service commitment that is unparalleled in the nation. Our city's lawyers have been inspired by the philosophy upon which our court system is founded, equal justice under law, to increase their contribution of free legal services to those in need but cannot afford, who need but cannot afford the services. If you look on the website for the Philadelphia Bar Association, in addition to the poll worker information, you will see information about some of the free legal services that are provided by the association, including the Lawyer Referral and Information Service, Legal Line, and a listing of public interest organizations that provide free or low-cost legal services. These two are part of our commitment to the city and its people. Perhaps no jurist understood the principle of equal justice under law better than Thurgood Marshall. the first African-American justice ever to sit as a justice in the building upon which this principle is inscribed. Therefore, on this day, it is appropriate to remember the words of Justice Marshall. We must never forget that the only real source of power that we can ever tap is the respect of the people. You are the people. You are the citizens of the United States of America. You are the source of any respect or power which the government may derive. Beginning today, you are the future of this nation. Congratulations, good luck, and most of all, welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. We have a final speaker, a speaker that is essential and important to what has happened here this morning. One of your own, Fanuel Katie, formerly of Ghana, will make remarks on behalf of all new citizens.
Good morning.
Morning.
Honorable Padova, esteemed panel, fellow new citizens, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to share my journey with you today. Actually, it's very long, but I've tried to summarize it. I decided to come to the United States because I believe it was a place where I could build a better future for myself and my family. The idea of living in a country known for its better future, opportunity, freedom, diversity, and something that deeply inspired me. However, the path to get here was not easy. I faced many challenges, from the uncertainty of leaving everything familiar behind to the complexity of the immigration process. There were times when the paperwork seemed endless, frustrating, and the wait was nerve-wracking. But I was determined. When I finally passed my naturalization test, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and pride. It was a combination of years of hard work and perseverance. Becoming a United States citizen is one of the proudest moments of my life. It feels like a new chapter has begun, one where I can fully participate in great nation, contribute to its future, and share its freedom, and continue to pursue things that are bigger than me. Please continue to chase your dream. Thank you all. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you, Fanuel. Great job. Thank you, Fanuel. Well, we're just about at the end, and I'd just like to make some very brief final comments. Along with the wonderful opportunities about which many of us have spoken this morning, and that you now have as citizens, I do think that we'd be remiss if we weren't reminded again of the critical responsibilities that go along with the privileges of citizenship. We must constantly remind ourselves that a free nation, above all, requires its citizens to act lawfully. A very essential part of being a citizen. And to responsibly, in all aspects of their daily experience, bear in mind that there are rules of law, that there are other people who may be affected by your actions, your words, your conduct. And very importantly, it's critical to good citizenship to constantly remind ourselves about the differences between right and wrong as citizens. The right part of being a citizen is in the United States Constitution and the laws of our land. And we always should choose to do the right thing. I'm a judge, and I do that preaching, I guess, every day of my life here. As a judge, day after day, I see citizens coming into my courtroom who have taken what they regarded as shortcuts, but were really violations of the law. Taking shortcuts, violating the law, usually means that you are infringing on the privileges of other American citizens, as well as the principles that are essential to remain a good and effective country. That course of action, ladies and gentlemen, should never be acceptable to you in any way, shape, or form. And when I say that course of action, I'm talking about following the wrong road rather than the right road. My fellow Americans, the newest of our citizens, I thank you for allowing us to be with you on this wonderful and memorable morning. It is truly wonderful, and it will always be memorable to all of us here. And we all wish you the best. It is our pleasure now to give you your certificates of citizenship. We do now recognize Teneri Rivera, as you know, an officer from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. We adjourn the court, and we now move forward to the distribution of your certificates. Ms. Rivera.
Due to timing, can everyone that is getting a certificate please line outside so I can hand you your certificates and call your name?
We are now adjourned. God bless you and thank you all.